Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's your boy JC back again with another video from Wedge Concepts. And in this video, I'm going to be discussing and or explaining why credit scores are different depending on where you look. All right, so let's get right to it. Hey, welcome back to my channel. I really appreciate you stopping by. Like I mentioned in this video, I'm going to be explaining why credit scores appear differently depending on where you look. Hey, what's going on? I had to interrupt the video to let y'all know about my book, Broke Budgeting. Okay, it's on Amazon, 5 Simple Strategies. Okay, the link is going to be in the description. Make sure you pick up a copy. I have a Kindle version as well as a paperback. All right. Let's get back to your video. So I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with this, but you may look at Credit Karma and you look at your scores and your scores are amazing. You go look at Experian and you realize you're actually riding on the bench, right? You're not even a starter. So why is that, right? Why the different scores? How come on this report it's like I'm at a 713, and on this report over here, I'm at a 787. Which ones do lenders use? So let's just go over the basics. I'm gonna try to give you a lot of facts, but not make it boring. But I got my notes here because I got to make sure I go through all this and try to be as accurate as possible. All right. So as you know, your credit score, if you don't know, your credit score is just a mathematical equation or formula that's based on credit information found on your report that lenders use to determine your credit worthiness. Okay. And it was developed by FICO, the Fair Isaac folks, under the Fair Isaac model. And this is what most lenders use. So, of course, most models with the FICO, you go from 300 to 850, and ideally you want to be above 720. 750 is even better, and usually 740 to 760, that's the sweet spot. I mean, once you get above 760, you're pretty much qualified for everything. You can still get denied for stuff, don't get that twisted, but you're pretty much at a rate where your score is high enough that you'll qualify for the best interest rates when you get any kind of credit or loans. So now the interesting thing about FICO is that FICO didn't really give you a score when it first came out. Scores came out around 1991. Now this is important that I mention this because if you can remember, or let's just say our parents, I don't want to say my parents, right? But you know, they don't know really how credit works. They don't know. They never got credit reports. They never got a score. They didn't know what was the percentages and how payment history equals this. They didn't know how many times they were late. They would just go into a bank or a credit union just hoping that their job was good enough. They had no idea what information lenders were looking at. But now, 2020, we know exactly what lenders are looking at. However, people get too caught up on the score. And that's where I think causes a lot of problems when people go to apply for credit cards, apply for loans, and get that mortgage. So you got your 3 bureaus, right? You got your Experian, you have your Equifax, and you have your TransUnion, right? You got to keep in mind that these 3 credit bureaus, they're actually in competition with one another, right? So it's like the information that they have, they don't talk to each other. It's not like they all are in cahoots with one another. They're each trying to prove that they are a better credit bureau. And right now, Experian is the #1 leading credit bureau. That's why I prefer to focus on Experian first, because Experian usually has, I haven't witnessed it yet, so I don't want to say always, but Experian usually has everything on your credit report, things that you forgot about. It'll show up on your Experian report. Okay. So now we, so the information that gets reported to these credit bureaus, that's determined by the lender. Okay, so you got the 3 bureaus. You go get an auto loan. That auto loan may not show up. Let's let this dude finish. Get him, boys. You think he got back up? Okay. So these creditors, let's say you get an auto loan, let's say Bank of America. Bank of America may report to Experian and TransUnion, but they may not report to Equifax. These lenders have to pay for these people to report this stuff. So it doesn't make sense, right, for some of these people to have it report to all 3. It's unnecessary, especially if, excuse me, that's what I get for drinking now. Especially if Experian is the most popular one, which is the most reliable. So people will, if you got to pay for one, lenders will prefer just to go ahead and pay for Experian, and that's why they'll show up there, and some things don't show up on the other reports, right? All right, so you got your 2 scoring models. Like I mentioned, you got your FICO, which is your Fair Isaac, but now you have a newer model, which is the VantageScore. That VantageScore is what you're going to find on Credit Karma. So FICO is what lenders use. VantageScore is what Credit Sesame and Credit Karma and other third party uses. The formula is different. Why is that? Okay. FICO, they won't tell anyone how their score is derived. It's a secret. So these third party vendors said, look, if we know utilization is important and we know that, payment history is important, let's kind of create a model and kind of get a score that can kind of be similar to the FICO score so that we can help our people understand what their scores are. No, just stick to, go to my FICO, go to Experian. You can get a close, good, accurate of what your score is. Or I believe you can go to myfico.com, and that way you can get an actual FICO score. So again, the FICO score is going to be different from Vantage. Vantage is what these third-party vendors came up with to try to mimic FICO. But since FICO has their own formula and no one knows what it is, VantageScore tries to mimic it, but it's not the same score. So this one could be higher. FICO can be higher. VantageScore can be higher than FICO, but lenders use FICO. I think we got it, right? Okay. So now, with FICO, there's also different versions. The story gets better. So I think right now they're coming out with version 10 of FICO. Most lenders still use 8 or 9. So that means that when you go to Experian and you get your score, that's a 689, you go to apply for a car or whatever, a credit card. When they put it through their model, they're using FICO 8. Now you have a 640. It is what it is. How do you know which version they're using? You won't know. That's why it's better just to have a 720 or above. Okay? So let's go ahead and finish up with some little tips. What I recommend you do is that you focus on Experian as far as to kind of get a close gauge of what your score is. Use that score. That score, you're going to be pretty accurate. Your Vantage score, whether it be Credit Karma or Credit Sesame or whatever, usually that's going to be Equifax and TransUnion. You can look at those reports just to see if anything is not accurate, to see what stuff is there. I use it just as a reference. I don't even pay attention to that score, but I do make sure that it's accurate though. Okay, so let's look more at your account. Let's make sure that when you look at your credit report, make sure it's accurate. Make sure your addresses are correct. Let's make sure your names, no aliases are on there. Okay, no abbreviations for your name. Make sure that's accurate. Check your addresses. If you notice that a payment was missed or late or a balance is different, You want to make sure you report that. Look for those things. All right. The second thing is that you want to get a better idea or better understanding of what banks or lenders are looking for, depending on what you're applying for. So, for example, if you are applying for a car and you've never had an auto loan before, but you got a 720 score, most likely you'll get an auto loan. Now, if you got a 620 and you've never had an auto loan, you may not get a car. However, if you got a 580, and I've heard stories, you got a 580 and you've had 3 auto loans, you can get a loan, another auto loan, because they've seen, now this is going off of the assumption that these cars weren't repoed, right? But that you have, satisfied those debts correctly. They'll give you a loan. It may be a crazy interest rate, but you'll get it. So what's my point? My point is that if you are looking to get a credit card, you want to make sure that your credit card information, your payment history, utilization is on point. If you want to get an auto loan, you want to make sure that all the information is correct, because they're going to go, lenders are going to look at what you're applying for, what product you're trying to get, and see what you're doing. Now, you also want to pay attention or mindful of where you're going to get this loan or who you're going to finance through. And I mean that by, are you going to a well-established big bank, like the Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo? Or are you going with a credit union or a regional or community bank? Because the big banks tend to be a lot stricter when it comes to the auto loans and mortgages, things like that, credit cards. But because they're bigger, they tend to give you, if you have the right credit information, right, the right score, the right payment history and everything, you can get much more money, right? So if your credit score isn't up to par or isn't where you think it should be, maybe going with the credit union where the rules are a little more relaxed, especially if that credit union or any bank where your direct deposit goes to, that's going to be your best shot at getting any kind of loan or credit card. All right. Now, the last thing is that, let's make sure we got that right. Yeah. The last thing is that you want to make sure that you ask for help if need be when it comes to your credit score, credit repair, delinquent items, any kind of credit questions you have. You want to be able to reach out and ask some of the credit experts, if you will. I am not a credit expert or financial planner or any kind of the sort. I'm an IT professional. But I love helping people. So, one of the best places that you can start to get help is to start with your bank or credit union. I mean, make an appointment. I know it's a pandemic, but you definitely can make an appointment, wear your mask. Go talk to a personal banker, a relationship banker, investment, or whatever, checking associates, whatever they call them, a personal banker. Tell them your situation. Have them bring in copies of your credit report. Let them know what you're going to do, right? So when you make the appointment, let them know so they can, put you with the right person. But you can also go online. Now, if you go online, I'm not saying look for the run-of-the-mill, fix your credit in 22 days type thing. I'm talking about if you go to anything you look up online when it deals with credit counselors, credit repair, credit resources, seminars, whatever the case may be, make sure it has a .gov, G-O-V at the end of it. That way you can be sure it's part of the government and it's nothing shady going on with that. So you want to work with somebody who's reputable, is my point. All right. So again, you want to stick with Experian. That tends to be the most accurate, but you still want to be mindful of Equifax and TransUnion to see what they are. Make sure no information is inaccurate, right? And, okay, I want to make sure I got that part too. Okay. So the score, don't get caught up on the score just yet, right? Because again, different platforms gives you different scores, but the lenders also look at a different score. Pay more attention to what's actually in the credit report. Okay, so also look for any derogatory items. You want to clean those up. You want to take a look at your hard inquiries, oldest age. Just go through your report. If you don't know where to get a report from, you can go to free credit report, annualcreditreport.com. You can go there, but of course you can get credit reports all over. Just search on the web. Just make sure that your report and account information is accurate. Okay? So I hope that was helpful. Hope that wasn't too boring. I think I ran over than what I had anticipated, but that's why your scores will be different, because you got your FICO, you got your VantageScore, you got different platforms, you got the lenders who use another score. Stick with your Experian. That'll give you a good baseline and you'll be all set. All right? So as always, do me a favor, right? Do not subscribe. Do not click the like button. But do me a favor though, and share this information with those you care about. Teach them. You apply it as well to your life. And let's build something great and special together. All right? Take care.